Welcome back to Deck Tech for Decks. I'm your host Caleb. Once again, we are talking about spiders, and this is by far the most broken spider we're talking about today. So click on all those links in the description down below. You get a free $15 whenever you click on that whatnot link, and you'll get 10% off all of your Tolarian library proxies whenever you click on that link or use code DT4D at checkout. Additionally, if you guys would like, comment, and subscribe, I really do appreciate it. Let's get right into what Gwen Stacy does. For her front side, she's 2 CMC and says when Gwen Stacy enters, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card for as long as you control this creature. Very solid. Just turn 2, you always get to draw a card. I like that. And then for 5 mana, you can either straight up cast her or transform her, depending if she's already on the battlefield or not. And then you get her legendary creature spider human hero form that has flying, vigilance, haste, and whenever you play a land from exile or cast a spell from exile, you get to put a 1/1 counter on Ghost Spider. And then you can remove 2 counters from Ghost Spider, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. That seems absolutely insane. The first thing I'm noticing with this commander is we could make a really absurd storm list. The first thing we need to ensure is that we're always putting counters on her. Yes, she can put counters on herself whenever we're casting things from exile, but we do need to remove 2 counters to exile the top card of our library. So this means we kind of want to make it to where we're putting 2 counters on her every time we're casting a spell from exile. So let's include cards like Exile. Exile just says if 1 counter would be put on something, put 2 counters instead. So now with her and Exile, again, we're putting 2 counters on her for every card we cast from exile. We have Ichormoon Gauntlet and Flux Channeler. These essentially allow us to put a 1/1 counter on her whenever we cast a non-creature spell, and that's going to essentially do the same thing, right? We just want to be able to put counters on her whenever we are casting non-creature spells or spells in general, and these cards are going to be the best way to do that. Another option we have is the ability to generate creature tokens, and those creature tokens entering with 1/1 counters on them, and then us moving those 1/1 counters from those creatures onto our commander, which is actually really easy to do in Jeskai colors. For instance, let's say we have Jiroth the Fleshwright on the battlefield. This is a 3 CMC legendary creature human warlock that says whenever you cast a spell during your turn, other than your first spell, you get to create a 2/2 blue and black zombie rogue creature token, and then whenever a zombie enters the battlefield under your control, you get to put a 1/1 counter on it for each zombie that entered the battlefield under your control this turn. So this guy makes an increasingly large board state of zombies that enter with increasingly more 1/1 counters on them. That's kind of exactly what we want for this style of deck, but how are we moving those counters? We're either using something like Resourceful Defense or the Ozolith. Resourceful Defense is the best way to do this. This is a 3 CMC enchantment that says whenever a permanent you control leaves the battlefield, if it had counters on it, put those counters on target permanent you control. So now we sacrifice a zombie that says, I don't know, has 6 counters on it, and we get to put them directly onto Gwen, and that's going to allow us to draw 3 cards, which can be absolutely insane. And then the next time we cast a spell, we're going to be able to generate 7 counters because, again, at that point, more zombies would have entered the battlefield. Now, the problem is here, what are we going to be sacrificing these tokens with? And the answer is pretty simple there. We're just going to use our Ashnod Altars or Phyrexian Altar effects. These are effects that allow us to sacrifice creatures to add manas to our mana pool. So now if you're paying attention, the goal of this deck is to 1, generate counters whenever we are casting spells. If we can't do that, we're going to generate creatures that enter with counters on them and then sacrifice them to our Ashnod's Altar effects. And then while we're doing that, we're actually generating mana, which is going to allow us to use our commander to exile more cards from the top of our library and cast more spells. There's also just some really good exile synergies in this deck. We have Sage of the Beyond. Yes, he is 7 CMC, but he's essentially going to reduce the cost of all the spells we're casting from exile by 2, which can be massive, especially when we're including something like a Sensei's Divining Top. This is a card that's 1 CMC and has the ability to pay 1, look at the top 3 cards of your library, then you can put them back in any order, or you can tap it to draw a card and put Sensei's Divining Top on top of your library. Now, the famous interaction here is you usually have something that allows you to play the cards from the top of your library, then you just go ahead and put the top on top, you have a cost reducer like Sage of the Hours, and then top is free, and that allows you to draw your entire deck. Now, this is a little bit more convoluted, but we can do that with Gwen, right? Because all we have to do is make sure we're generating at least 1 counter every time we are casting a spell, and that's going to allow us to put Sensei's Divining Top on top, remove 2 counters from her, cast the top for free because we have Sage of Hours on the battlefield, and again, that will allow us to draw our entire deck. Pretty fun there. Another thing I did want to talk about is just some more Exile synergy stuff. Vega the Watcher is a 3 CMC bird spirit that says whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, you get to draw a card. Delayed Blast Fireball, one of my favorite cards, is going to be amazing in this deck as well. It's 3 CMC and says Delayed Blast Fireball deals 2 damage to each opponent and each creature they control. If that spell is cast from Exile, it deals 5 damage to each opponent and each creature they control instead, and then it has Flashback for 6 mana. So the thought process is here, you're going to have to flash it back and then it's going to give you a more explosive effect. But we don't have to flash it back if we're just casting it from Exile anyway. So that's the broken interaction there. Nelshny, or I call him Alf, because that's a mouthful and I don't even know if I'm saying it right, is also amazing in these Exile-centric decks. He's a 6 CMC creature beast demon that has flying, and whenever you cast a spell from Exile, copy it. You may choose new targets for the copy. If a permanent spell is copied this way, it gains haste. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. Pretty solid stuff here, just getting double value. Passionate Archaeologist can also do a ton of damage over the course of a game. This is a legendary enchantment background that says commander creatures you own have, whenever you cast a spell from Exile, this creature deals damage equal to that spell's mana value to target opponent. So while we're storming off, we are also doming our opponents in the face. I also like Commander Lyra Porter. This is a 5 CMC legendary creature human soldier that says whenever you attack, spells you cast from Exile this turn cost X less to cast, where X is the number of players being attacked. Exile the top X cards from your library. Until end of turn, you may cast spells from among those Exile cards. Now, what people misunderstand about this card is that she only reduces the cost of the cards that you're exiling with her. So you're only reducing the cost of those 3 cards. But no, this girl reduces the cost of every single card you're casting from Exile regardless. So we have 3 opponents. As long as we attack all 3 of them, all of our spells we're casting from Exile are going to get reduced by 3, which can be absolutely insane and make a scenario to where you're only having to pay the colored pips to cast creature spells. And that's going to cause an insane storm turn if we have our creatures on the battlefield, like Third Path Iconoclast on the battlefield, Monastery Mentor, and even Kaikar Wind's Fury on the battlefield. Are creatures that allow us to generate creature tokens whenever we're casting non-creature spells, and then we're sacrificing them to our Ashnod's Altar effect to pay for all the spells we're casting from Exile. Pretty fun strategy here. Again, I think this could be a really broken storm deck. I think you could even make a Cheerios build out of this where you pay a lot of 0 drops, and like I said, there's also a lot of different options you could take. You could take the go wide approach that moves all your counters around, then moves them all the way onto your commander, or you could go the storm approach that's a little bit lower to the ground. You're using rituals and everything to just keep casting spells, and when you're casting spells, you're putting counters on her, and it just leads you to kind of getting there. After all, everybody loves playing against a non-deterministic storm deck. Don't let them tell you any different. Everybody's happy to wait 30 minutes to see what your cool deck's doing. Yeah, they're buying it. They're buying it. Anyway, this is going to be Gwen. Let me know what your ideas for her are in the comments down below. I think she's going to be a super fun commander. I love storm decks, and this is a very powerful storm deck in my opinion, and I think could see some very high level play once people start cracking her. I do think Sensei's Divining Top is some of the most powerful things you can do with her, especially whenever we're able to put 2 counters, but I mean, Sensei Divining Top combos are not new, and she's going to abuse them a little bit worse than other cards, but I don't even know if that's true because you usually need 2 other pieces, and this is a deck that with Sensei's Divining Top and 1 other piece, you do just go infinite and draw your entire deck. So again, I think she could see some very high level play here. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comment section down below.